Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have another very special guest. Before we introduce our guest, we do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs unrestricted funds for higher teacher salaries or whatever your district needs, reach out to Ideal Impact. Okay, today we have a special guest. We have Superintendent Hewitt from Shepherd ISD. Superintendent Hewitt, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And we've had over, I think we're going on 100 interviews with superintendents and board members around the great state of Texas. 95% of them are superintendents, but every single one of them, every district's different, every leadership style is different. It's really unique conversations that we have, and I'm sure it's no different for you, where there's something unique you bring to the table. But just so everybody gets to know you a little bit, could you share a little bit about your background?
Sure. I started in 1997 teaching in a little small school down by the border in Bracketville, Texas. It was Brackett ISD. And then I moved on from there. I was a coach and a teacher, and I went out to West Texas and Pecos for a couple of years. And then I moved back to kind of where my hometown was, San Angelo, Cristobal area in West Texas. And I finished up my master's degree. And then I took my first administrative job in 2004 in Lamesa, Texas, right south of Lubbock. And I did that for about 3 years as an assistant principal of high school, and then moved to Smithville, Texas, right outside of Austin, home of Hope Floats, where we kind of made our home, kind of settled down a little bit with our two kids. My wife is also an educator. And so we still have our home there. We made it in 2007, and I was the principal of Smithville High School for about 5 years. And then from there, went to Luling ISD, became an assistant superintendent, and then went to Bastrop ISD for a while, and then on to TEA, believe it or not, for about 20 months. And then in 2020, I landed here in Shepherd ISD, and I'm a COVID superintendent. So I started in COVID and had to maneuver my way through that. So that's kind of my background.
You made it through it, right? So
Yes.
it seems like a lot of superintendents around the COVID period, they were not having a lot of fun, and a lot of times it seems like they left the field
Sure.
completely. So very interesting. So TEA and superintendent, you've been around the Austin area. Now Shepherd ISD, it's off of 59, right? And coming out of
Yes,
Houston.
sir.
I
Yes,
think
we are about 10 miles, 12 miles north of Cleveland, about 25-ish or so from Splendora. And if you keep going south, you hit New Caney, Humble, and you're right in. You can be at Minute Maid from Shepherd in about 52 minutes. So,
okay, very good. I'm in Kingwood, so not too
oh,
far. Yeah, right down the road. Um, Very cool. So let's talk about what you're passionate about in public ed. Every leader, every superintendent we talk to, every district's a little bit different. What are you really focused on these days related to public ed?
well, my passion is public education, period. I went to school to be an educator, and I'm in my 28th year. So when you think out of, I only went to school to do this. I didn't accidentally get into education. I knew I wanted to do something in it, and I just moved up through the system. And so I really love kids. I really love staff. I really just love the environment of public education. I think we do some of the best work for kids and for people. I think it takes a special person to be in education, whether you're a teacher, anybody inside the building. You have to have a feeling of, I'm doing this for students. They're first. We have a motto here at Shepherd: every student, every minute, every day. And it's just really, that's what it's about. I feel like it's a service industry that I call myself, and people that I'm close to, we're educational missionaries. And whenever you think about missionary work, and what it really relates to is, what are you doing whenever you do that type of work? And you're not just bringing the gospel to people. You're building water wells and churches and schools, and you're probably tired at the end of the day, and you're in not at the greatest conditions all the time. And so, I just enjoy it, and so I'm passionate about that. trying to be innovative. I try not to worry too much about all the things I cannot control. I can't control the legislature or TEA or, those kinds of things, but what can I control? What's in my locus and control? And I try to lead like that every day. And so I understand talks of positivity, and I'm not trying to be overly positive. At the same time, I enjoy it and I want to be in this until I retire. And I think that's the kind of passion I bring every day.
Very good, very good. And so what's on the horizon? Y- if you were to look a year, 5 years from now, what do you see happening in public ed? Do you see, your kind of your focus shifting at all, or anything changing in general, or
Well, I think honestly, Gary, what we have to tackle as superintendents, and I think it goes all the way up to the superintendent, is there is definitely a staff shortage and I say staff, I'm not even going to say teacher anymore because it's in every part of education. The staff, just a staff shortage. In about 2021, I was on the governor's task force, and I sent out a survey and I had like 19,000 responses. And I asked three questions and they were very basic. What can we do to mitigate, the teacher shortage? What are some examples you might provide, and anything else that you would like to let me know, or whatever, very scientific, Gary, very scientific in terms of, it was a Google form done in haste during spring break. I mean, I wasn't thinking it through, but I got 19,000 responses. And what I learned was what we already knew. Compensation is an issue for teachers. The workload is an issue for teachers, and behavior is different post-COVID for students. And those are like the three biggest areas. And you can go on the TA's website and you can see the results of that. But at the end of the day, I think we have to address not just a shortage, but how to keep people in the profession. And I think that's number one. But we do need help from the legislature in terms of funding for, robust and rich salaries. And I have to tell you, just the economy of where it is today, I mean, my starting teachers here make $52,000. And when I started, I made 19. So if I use me as a rubric, oh, wow, that's a lot different. But the economy is much different today.
mm-hmm.
When I was teaching and coaching, I mean, together, my wife and I made maybe a little bit under $80,000 together, but our house only cost $62,000. And we could have a car payment and we could play daycare. It's so far out of bounds for people to live life and teach. And I think that's part of it. I don't think people are leaving the field just because they don't like it. I think they're leaving the field because they have to make ends meet. And we've got to figure that out. So for a year from now, I hope we have some answers about how we can change the system for the better. I mean, we try lots of things here at Shepherd. We've done robust compensation as much as we possibly can. We've maxed out our stipends. We create some, if we give people extra work, we try to pay them for it, for everything that we do. If we increase workload, we want to compensate for that. We are a national showcase winner of capturing kids' hearts 2 years in a row. We're at the district level. Every campus in our district is national showcase winners. And so that's social emotional learning and how we treat one another and try to modify behavior and all that. So we're trying to address all three of the issues that, the survey said were issues.
It makes sense. And with the funding piece, and pardon my ignorance around this area of it. So when it comes to getting additional funds, I understand they come from the state and sometimes the federal government too. It, are there ever any additional incentives for reaching certain milestones within a district, like performance, or I'm just kind of thinking outside the box, I guess, a little bit. Like, how could you, if everything stayed the same, like what are other ways to get funding?
That's a great question. Here in our district, we have done a couple of different types of things. When we had ESSER monies, we built a kind of a performance. If kids performed in a certain way or whatever in your classroom, then we had some stipends attached to that. And we paid out at one point in time, across our district, about 250K. So that was awesome. And that was a couple of years ago. That was 2022. But the state has a program, and I don't know, since you interview a lot of superintendents, you may have heard it. It's called the teacher incentive allotment. And on its face, I don't want to call it a flawed system, but it is not a system for all. And I think that's what happens with people. The reason why they may not like engage in it is because, it's a way for teachers to match their evaluation with performance and, have data correlate, and then thus be open themselves up for some funds. And we have about 8 teachers in our district right now who receive TIA money, with 2 of them receiving over $25,000 for the next 5 years on their paycheck. And, that's very significant. They're making close to $90,000 a year. And, the governor has that initiative of teachers being, paying 6 figures or whatever. And that's part of it. That's funded by the legislature. But then again, to have a district that has 50% of its staff eligible for TIA, that's unheard of. I mean, it's more like 33 or 40 on the high end. And so there's some people left out of that circle. And so until all are taken care of, that's one area. So that you have to open yourself up for that avenue. And then I think you have to do some things locally. You have to start thinking about how do I create a pay structure for staff that pays my best and my brightest the right way.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm going to stay in this career until I'm 60, which, is another 8 years, hopefully I get to, I think that's going to be something that we have to think about, is that I don't want to say that not all teachers are created equal. I don't want you to hear that. What I want you to hear is some of the jobs in education, some of the teaching jobs are a little bit more strenuous than the other ones, right? I would think that 3rd grade STAR teacher, for example, that CTE aeronautics teacher or whatever, like there are some staff members that have some just a little bit different responsibility. And I think responsibility should be paid for. And we do it in our system already. And that's called counselor, assistant principal, curriculum director. We have varying pay levels there. And so I think we can get to a point where we do that with staff as well, teachers, no doubt.
What about industry? So I hear about some districts, they have certain businesses in the area, and it seems like they get funding from those businesses if they're in maybe it's property taxes. Is that how they're getting funding from?
Well, yeah, I mean, schools are funded in 2 different ways, from estate allotments and then from property taxes. And, where there's where land is evaluated at a higher level, then obviously that level of income's a little bit higher for schools. But they also, in the reverse, the state lowers the allotment too at the same time that if you're in a wealthy district. We are rural. We even though we're close to Houston and it's population dense where we are, we're still very rural.
Okay.
One stoplight town. Everybody knows everybody. Lots of families have been here for a long time. So I'm going to see the Kingwood, New Caney, Cleveland eventually encroach its way here, which also brings business and industry, and the ability of, taxation comes with all of that.
Yeah, and I know with Cleveland being like the fastest growing district in the state, it seems like Shepherd would start. I mean, are you guys seeing a lot of expansion happening yet?
We are seeing Cleveland expansion, obviously, and then to our, I guess that's west. Yes, west is Cold Springs and that school district, and then Willis, and then New Waverly, and 45 is right there. They're growing. There's lots of rooftops coming in down that direction. We haven't seen an enrollment increase that's drastic, but we are up about 16 kids. And for a rural school of 1,970, that's a lot in a year. 16 kids is almost a teacher's salary when you think of it from that perspective. So yeah, I anticipate that we're going to get some Cleveland push.
Yeah.
There is land around us that's ready and prime for possible, developers to come in.
Yeah, if I was a betting man and looking at what's happening in Cleveland and if there's other areas right around you guys, I would think here in the next year or so, things will really start picking up in y'all's area, I would think, if
Well, just recently, Interstate 69 stops right on the outskirts of Cleveland, right? Eventually, it's going to make its way all the way through Shepherd and up to Lufkin, Texas.
hmm
And it'll be I-69 from Houston all the way through. And when that happened, there's flyovers everywhere. So you literally can be in downtown Houston, like I said, in 50 minutes from Shepherd. And so there's that possibility when you're on a major thoroughfare like that, that people will want to get out of that, Houston rush or whatever it's called, to get to a more quiet part of the state so they can raise their kids. And I think that's going to happen to us. It's just a matter of time.
Yep, absolutely makes sense. And well, that's interesting. So those listening in, I mean, it seems like Shepherd may be the place to be, right?
Let's hope.
Ha-
Yeah.
nice area, not too far from Houston. Other areas are developing, so now is the time to get into Shepherd and uh, before it, before you guys get overwhelmed with a lot of people.
Right.
Um, so what's on the horizon at your district as far as anything exciting coming up in the district, just so we can let everybody know about?
Oh, well, we got a couple of exciting things that we do. And we're growing the two things. We have a program where we have taken the best of the best paraprofessional that we have in our system, and we have put them in a classroom with some help of an instructional specialist over the top, given them a class of kids, and at the same time, they enroll in college. And we pay their tuition less, whatever the tuition costs are, we make a differential there, and
Hmm.
it's budget neutral. It's a teacher salary we already had in the budget, but we less that for what their tuition cost is. And we're changing lives, Gary. We have about 9 people in this situation here. And, they're homegrown folks. They're all in. They're doing just great work in the classroom. And I think it's a way to mitigate the teacher shortage, one of the best ways to do that. And we're excited. We have 5 or 6 of them are about to graduate in December with their college degree. And so when you think
Wow.
about this, it takes about 2 or 3 years. And once you think about this process over time, you're building a pipeline of people in your classroom. So that's one thing we're doing in Shepherd. And we kind of present a little bit around the state about it. And we're proud of that. And then
Can
the
you
other thing is we have
can you say that again, just so we everybody listening, so they're going to high school, but they're also taking college classes, and when they finish high school, they
we don't
have
have, no, that's not the program we have. We
okay.
have paraprofessionals who are in
Yep.
classrooms. These people are not. Now that high school program does exist, and that's our next phase. We're going to bring
Okay.
high school students into that phase. But these are people who are already paraprofessionals in our system, right? They're
Oh,
teacher
okay, got it, got
aides.
it.
So, changing their lives, staying put, growing our own.
Yeah.
Next area is we call it Apex Teacher Applying Principles of Excellence. And essentially what it is, I have 3 third grade reading teachers and 3 third grade math teachers, and for fourth grade, I have three in every area. And so the Apex teacher is a master teacher who's got several years of experience, data proven, whatever their field is. They're the master teacher, and what they do is they teach using technology that is also delivered in 2 adjacent classrooms with other teachers as facilitators in those classrooms. And so the master teacher is delivering the meat of the instruction, and then the other facilitators are helping through that process at the same time.
Huh.
And what that allows us to do is to train other folks that may not be just ready yet or alternative certified or whatever, but it also alleviates the question mark of when kids say, or parents, hey, I want teacher X to be my kid's teacher. Well, everybody gets Mrs. Smith because she's the best teacher or whatever. So,
Yeah.
and that's the glory part about it. And what we do with the advent of technology is we're able to, through Chromebooks, through screens in the room, and through microphones, is literally we are able to make it, 3 rooms, 1 room. And so we think that technology is working, and we stipend that pretty healthy, around 15 to 20K, because we're going out and recruiting a very, very, very talented teacher to lead that. And
Yeah.
so we think that helps with a little bit of our teacher shortage. And it also trains our Inspire candidates who are, our paraprofessionals.
Yep.
And so that's what we're doing. We're trying to do everything we can to mitigate teacher shortage. We're trying to do everything we did to grow our own and really impact student outcomes as much as we can.
Yeah, it sounds like the students get the best of both worlds. The
Yes.
the teachers get the best of, I mean, creates a nice career path for them and helps with the shortage issue as well. And it's an innovative approach that's awesome. That is very creative and solves a big problem. Sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it has hiccups. Everything does, but
Yep.
we just try to keep moving forward and just trying to, where there's an issue, we try to address it and just try to move on. I just think it takes that style of problem solving and thinking, and we just can't, wring our hands constantly and say, man, there's nobody come teach our kids. I think we just have to overcome that kind of feeling and say, what do we have to do? Where do we have to step up and make this work?
Awesome. Well, I know we're running short on time, so last question here. Who has inspired you? Another superintendent that it's inspired you that you think would be a great interview on the podcast?
I could tell you 2 of them for sure. Well, one of them's not a superintendent anymore. If you ever get a chance to interview Jill Seiler,
Okay.
she is the deputy director of professional development at the Texas Association of School Administrators. She's
Okay.
in charge of all the professional learning. Was a 10-year superintendent at Gunner ISD. Learned from her all the time. Phenomenal leader. There's another leader who was my mentor early in my career. His name is Keith Bryant. He is the superintendent of Lubbock Cooper ISD. I can't tell you how long he's been in, probably about 30 years or whatever. Tremendous leader. Has been my mentor the whole entire time I've been in. So phenomenal leader, been superintendent of the year in 2019. So easy to learn from, I tell you what. And I'm glad that I know him.
Awesome. Well, we'll have to reach out to them and try to get them on the podcast. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Superintendent Hewitt.
Thank you,
All
Gary. I
right.
appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
All
Okay,
right.
but before we close out, we do want to give one final shout out to our sponsor, Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to public education in the form of a free gift. So if your district needs unrestricted funds for higher teacher salaries or whatever your district may need, reach out to Ideal Impact. And for those that have been tuning in, stay tuned for future episodes of the Educational Leadership Podcast.